This is amateur hour, and it needs to stop. What does this even mean for your negotiating strategy? How are you in charge of negotiation if the president is tweeting?
To the Department of Agriculture, more than 40% of the country's farm workers are undocumented.
We would be in big trouble if we lost workforce.
Farmers are making a cry for help before it's too late. Countless farmers gathered to speak to representatives of Arkansas leaders to share the urgency that something needs to be done.
Canada is emerging as a major force in the global wheat market, as international buyers increasingly turn away from American supplies. From Asia to Africa and the Middle East, long-established purchasing patterns are shifting, reshaping global grain trade and raising serious questions about food security, geopolitics, and the future balance of agricultural power. Wheat is more than just another commodity traded on global markets. It is a staple food for more than a third of the world's population and a cornerstone of political and social stability in dozens of countries. Bread prices have toppled governments in the past, and even today, access to affordable wheat remains a sensitive issue for policymakers. When the flow of wheat changes direction, the consequences are felt far beyond farms and ports. For much of the last century, the United States has been one of the world's dominant wheat exporters, alongside Canada, Australia, Russia, and the European Union. American wheat, grown across the Great Plains and Pacific Northwest, has long supplied bakeries, mills, and food aid programs around the globe. The country built its reputation on scale, efficiency, and an extensive transportation network that connected inland farms to international markets. Yet in recent years, signs have emerged that this dominance is no longer guaranteed. Importers are quietly reassessing their options. Procurement agencies are diversifying suppliers. Long-term contracts are being renegotiated. And in many cases, Canada is emerging as the preferred alternative. The reasons behind this shift are complex and deeply interconnected. One of the most frequently cited concerns among international buyers is consistency. While U.S. wheat continues to meet international safety standards, some importers report variations in protein content and milling performance between shipments. For large industrial bakeries and food processors, even small inconsistencies can affect production efficiency, texture, and shelf life. Climate volatility has played an important role in this variability. The United States has experienced a series of extreme weather events in key wheat-producing regions. Prolonged droughts across the plains have reduced yields and altered grain quality, while floods in the Midwest have disrupted planting and harvest schedules. Heat waves, late frosts, and shifting rainfall patterns are making production more unpredictable from year to year. American farmers remain among the most skilled and productive in the world, but climate stress is making it harder to guarantee uniform output across large volumes. For buyers seeking long-term stability, that uncertainty matters. Price is another major factor. Rising input costs in the United States have pushed wheat prices higher. Fuel, fertilizer, labor, insurance, and equipment costs have all increased, squeezing farmers' margins and raising export prices. At the same time, some competitors have managed to offer more attractive pricing, either through lower production costs or favorable exchange rates. Logistics have also come under scrutiny. Periodic congestion at U.S. ports, rail bottlenecks, and labor disputes have led to shipment delays. For countries that rely heavily on imports, delays can translate into shortages, higher consumer prices, and political pressure. Reliability, not just cost, has become a central concern. Beyond economics, geopolitics has increasingly shaped global trade decisions. While wheat itself is rarely targeted by sanctions, broader diplomatic tensions influence how governments assess risk. Some importing nations are wary of relying too heavily on a single supplier whose foreign policy decisions could indirectly affect trade terms or access. As a result, diversification has become a strategic priority. Against this backdrop, Canada's rise appears both timely and deliberate. Canadian wheat, particularly hard red spring wheat, enjoys a long-standing reputation for high quality. Its strong gluten characteristics and consistent protein levels make it especially suitable for bread, pasta, and premium baked goods. For millers, this consistency reduces waste and improves predictability. Canada's grain handling system reinforces that reputation. Strict grading standards, centralized inspection, and traceability mechanisms ensure that shipments meet precise specifications. Buyers know that what they order is what will arrive, shipment after shipment. In a volatile global market, that trust is invaluable. Infrastructure has further strengthened Canada's position. Ports on the Pacific and Atlantic coasts, as well as along the Great Lakes, provide access to multiple regions. Recent investments in rail capacity, port automation, and storage facilities have improved efficiency and reduced delays. While no system is immune to disruption, Canada's supply chains have proven relatively resilient during recent global shocks. Trade policy has also played a role. Canada is part of several major trade agreements that reduce tariffs and streamline access to key markets. Stable diplomatic relations with many importing nations have helped maintain open channels of communication, even during periods of global tension. From the perspective of buyers, the shift toward Canadian wheat is driven less by ideology than by pragmatism. In North Africa and the Middle East, governments subsidize bread to protect low-income households and maintain social stability. A sudden increase in prices or a disruption in supply can quickly escalate into unrest. Procurement agencies in these regions prioritize suppliers who can deliver reliably, even if prices are marginally higher. In Asia, growing populations and changing diets are driving demand for higher quality wheat. Urbanization and rising incomes have increased consumption of bread, noodles, and processed foods. For manufacturers, quality differentiation matters. Consistent wheat characteristics can improve efficiency and product uniformity, making Canadian wheat particularly attractive. Across parts of Africa, currency pressures and rising import bills are forcing governments to seek longer-term supply arrangements with predictable pricing. Some have turned to Canada for contracts that offer stability and transparency. These relationships, once established, tend to reinforce themselves over time. It is important to note that most buyers are not abandoning U.S. wheat entirely. Instead, they are reducing their reliance on it as a single source. Diversification is the goal. However, as purchasing is spread across multiple suppliers, Canada is capturing a growing share of that redistributed demand. For American wheat farmers, this shift is deeply concerning. Wheat acreage in the United States has been declining for years as farmers switch to crops like corn and soybeans, which often offer higher returns. Reduced export demand threatens to accelerate that trend, potentially reshaping rural economies across wheat-producing regions. Many farmers argue that they are facing pressures beyond their control. Climate change, rising costs, and global competition have created an uneven playing field. Industry groups are calling for greater investment in infrastructure, research into climate-resilient wheat varieties, and renewed efforts to strengthen export competitiveness. There is also a push to rebuild relationships with international buyers. That includes addressing concerns about consistency, improving transparency, and ensuring that logistics systems can meet modern expectations. The United States remains a major agricultural power, but its wheat sector faces a pivotal moment. Canada's success must also be understood within the broader global context. Russia has emerged as the world's largest wheat exporter by volume, leveraging vast production and aggressive pricing. Despite geopolitical tensions, many countries continue to buy Russian wheat because it is affordable and readily available. Australia, after recovering from years of drought, has also increased exports, particularly to Asian markets. The European Union remains a significant supplier, though it faces its own climate challenges. In this crowded and competitive environment, Canada's advantage lies not in being the cheapest supplier, but in being perceived as one of the most reliable. For many buyers, that balance of quality, stability, and trust outweighs marginal price differences. The implications of these shifts extend far beyond trade balances. Food security is increasingly seen as a national security issue. The COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and a series of climate-related disasters have exposed vulnerabilities in global food systems. Governments are acutely aware that disruptions to staple foods can have cascading effects on economies and social cohesion. As buyers adjust their sourcing strategies, they are effectively managing risk. Canada's growing role may enhance stability for some regions, but it also raises questions about concentration. If too much of the world's wheat supply becomes dependent on a handful of exporters, the system becomes more vulnerable to shocks. Climate change looms large over all of these considerations. Canada's northern geography has, so far, insulated it from some of the extreme conditions affecting other regions. Longer growing seasons have even expanded agricultural potential in certain areas. But climate volatility is increasing everywhere. Heat waves, floods, pests, and disease do not respect borders. Both Canada and the United States face pressure to reduce the environmental footprint of agriculture while maintaining output. Sustainable farming practices, soil conservation, and water management will play a growing role in determining future competitiveness. Buyers, too, are paying closer attention to sustainability credentials. Environmental standards may soon influence trade decisions as much as price and quality. Looking ahead, the global wheat market is unlikely to settle into a stable equilibrium anytime soon. Short-term movements will be shaped by harvest outcomes, weather patterns, and currency fluctuations. Long-term trends will depend on investment in innovation, adaptation to climate change, and the evolving geopolitical landscape. For Canada, the challenge will be to maintain its reputation for quality and reliability while responsibly scaling up exports. For the United States, the task is to regain lost ground through innovation, infrastructure investment, and renewed engagement with global partners. For importing nations, the priority remains securing affordable and reliable food supplies in an uncertain world. Canada's growing success in the global wheat market reflects deeper changes in how nations trade, manage risk, and plan for the future. As American wheat faces increased scrutiny, Canada's reputation for consistency and stability is paying dividends. Yet this is not a simple story of winners and losers. It is a reminder that in a globalized world, trust, resilience, and cooperation are as vital as yield and price. From the fields of the Canadian prairies to the bakeries of Cairo, Lagos, and Jakarta, decisions made today will shape what ends up on dinner tables tomorrow.